So Matt, I was wondering, do you know actually where Mypos actually is?
It's a Mediterranean island.
When was the last time you were there?
Probably just a couple years ago with my family. We were dealing with the sheep herder incident.
Is it near
Sheep herder incident?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really big thing in history. I'll have to send it to you one of these days.
How y'all been doing on that research of transportation? You know, trains, planes, cars. I'm tired of that shit. Let's invent a teleportation machine. Let's hurry up and invent that shit.
You mean like the transporter in Star Trek so we can get from place to place?
You know what? I think the reason is because everybody's worried about the fly. Yeah, you know, the fly, Return of the Fly, Curse of the Fly, Fly 2, Baxter Stockman. Has anybody found anything about this? Is there any real science if a fly got in a transporter, would it actually swap cells or fuse cells, depending on which fly we're talking about?
Seth Brundle put a plate with meat on it. It didn't make like some kind of weird meat plate entity when it came out the other side. It kept them as two separate things. Why would it see a fly and see a person and decide like, oh, obviously those are the same thing. I'm going to throw those together.
It was actually analyzing what the content of the pod was. How did it get those numbers? And you know, the only way for it to do that would be probably to like mash up whatever's in pod 1 and then do some kind of spectrography on it, and then reconstitute it with the same components.
But then if it did that, what would prevent it from just being like a lump of shit that's like, oh, it's 90% carbon or something, and like a pile of it? Like, it's got to have some other component in it that tells it in what order to put the atoms.
Yeah, and the order could get reversed because the Andre Delambre version of the machine actually swapped it all around at one point, like a mirror. The cells swapped, so there was a fly human and a human fly. And then Return of the Fly, his son had the same problem. They need to get some damn raid or something. Why does these teleportation machines always attract flies? Do teleportation machines just smell like shit for some reason? That they
It's just because they're built by scientists, and scientists tend not to bathe.
So they always got flies buzzing around them. You know, Willy Wonka, he was able to teleport chocolate bars. But he tried it on a person. Against his own will.
Stop, don't, come back.
And that didn't work out, so...
Did he come out half chocolate bar?
He came out tiny.
Actually, that's exactly how Wonka's machine was meant to work, though. Willy Wonka's actually the only one that got teleportation right. He wanted things small.
Wonka got it right.
Yeah.
That's not very cost efficient if you make a giant chocolate bar and then you turn it into something smaller.
Well, it's not cost efficient. But if he could reverse engineer that and build one that...
Oh, I guess that's what he was working towards.
You know what? Like, yeah, like a fun size. That's not fun. Why don't they call a fun size be like the size of a house? All flies do, they fly around, they shit, they puke and eat, and they lay maggots.
You see the fly on the ceiling sometimes, on the walls, climbing around as he... So every time he lands, there's like a 1/4 chance that he will either shit or puke or lay maggots.
So what if he lands on the ceiling, he's going to puke up, like onto the ceiling?
Well, I mean, gravity is still in effect, so he'd probably...
Puke on his own face.
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
If he puked on his own face, would he dissolve his own face?
Well, but flies have the proboscis, right, which the puke comes out of. He didn't have that. He was just a human dribbling down his own
What's the thing called?
Proboscis.
Oh, is that what Q-Bert has? Like a proboscis?
I guess that is what Q-Bert has.
I always wanted to know that.
What is it about the Star Trek universe that can defeat bacterias and flies and yeast?
I think they have like a sterilization thing in there, so if anything flies in there, it'll probably die.
Captain Kirk wouldn't put up with that shit. If a fly got on the transporter with Captain Kirk, he would just wrestle that fly and karate chop it in the back, give it some punches.
He punched the fly.
He beats the shit out of bacteria, yeah. Kirk fucks the shit out of everything.
I never remember Kirk getting on a teleporter and being like, bacteria, before he like goes down to the planet.
It already happened, but then now they know not to mess with them.
Oh, okay. He did it the first time.
The first time. He showed them.
All the bacteria just clears out when Kirk gets on the telepod.
Next Generation had it easy because Kirk already showed them who's boss.
Yeah. So how do Klingons transport then?
Well, they're even meaner than Kirk is.
Oh, they beat the shit out of him, though.
How do the Vulcans do it?
Yeah.
I can't see them punching bacteria.
How do you punch a microscopic organism?
They use the nerve pinch on the bacteria.
But there's bacteria
Just like a whole
and
like
yeast.
pile of bacteria.
All knocked out.
No, here's what I think happens. I think that there's some type of mist that occurs that's sort of like a combination of bug spray, pesticides that
That Kirk emits from his anal gland.
Okay, fine.
Kirk shoots right at his ass.
But what if Kirk's not around? How's everyone else?
I think Spock would be more likely to be able to do that because Kirk is a human. Maybe Vulcans can do that because they can do mind melds and shit. So Spock pretty much just bends over and Ray just shoots at his ass and clears out the whole transporter room. He's like, "All right, guys, come on in."
Vulcan ass blast? Is that what
The
you're
Vulcan
saying?
ass blaster. There's the Vulcan mind meld, and there's the Vulcan nerve pinch, and then there's the Vulcan ass blast.
So what if you have to transport and there's no Vulcan around to ass blast the bacteria off of you?
Well, you're fucked.
Basically, every time somebody invents a teleportation machine, a fucking fly gets in. Flies are the reason that we can never teleport. God invented flies so that humankind could never make such an invention. Otherwise, we could transport to heaven, and that'd be cheating.